Jeff Niswich is a master storyteller who brings rare authenticity to his message. From growing sales to team execution to leadership, Jeff motivates people to accelerate their success and impact their relationships. Jeff's audiences experience disruptive thinking, challenging questions, and vulnerable sharing. An inspiring experience has been called Getting Jeffed. So please welcome Jeff Niswich.
You know, if you pay attention, you can learn something everywhere in any circumstance. I recently learned a lesson during a 6-hour drive a few weeks ago from Pennsylvania to Columbus to speak. Now, I had a challenge. As a speaker, it's a significant challenge. I had been sick. I had literally lost my voice. My voice was barely audible, but I had a 6-hour drive. I had no books on CD. I said, what am I going to do? I can't sing. I can listen to my thoughts, but that gets boring quickly. So I thought, well, I'll call some friends. So what I did is I sent a text to 2 friends. I said, here's the deal. I can't speak. I'd like some company on the drive. You'll have to carry the conversation. I get the first phone call. I won't mention their name. That call lasted a minute and a half. And in that minute and a half, I was asked 12 or 13 questions. How was your day? How are you feeling? And I have a headset with the cord, and I kept lifting it up saying, I can't speak. And a minute and a half later, she said, well, I'm going to let you go, and hangs up. So I tried the second one. That call lasted 3 minutes because that person told me about their day. And then at the end, they said, I have so many questions for you. How about if I text them to you, and you can text the answers back? I'm thinking, it's 10 o'clock at night, I've got a 6-hour drive across central Pennsylvania in the dark, and you want me to text long answers. I said a short version of that, and her answer was, it's okay, you dictate your texts. So here's the lesson I learned. I thought I had the lesson. The lesson was, I never want to be in a coma. Yeah, because if I'm in a coma, people will come to visit, but they're not going to talk to me because they can't carry the conversation. Now, I shared this story a few weeks ago, and there was another lesson in this. Someone suggested I should get smarter friends, and I think there's some truth to that. So what does this story about comas have to do with anything? Well, a lot, because what it highlights for us is that almost every one of us lives our life unconscious. And I didn't realize that until a few years ago. I thought I was one of the most conscious people I knew. Go figure. And then I realized in a moment of clarity that wasn't mine. It was a phrase that I heard, seemingly innocuous, but it explained it all. It was 5 years ago. I was at a retreat, and a friend of mine named Joe was revisiting his life. A young guy, by the way. Joe was probably 39, looking at 15 to 18 years of professional career. And his comment to the group was, you know, as I look back, I've had a few stumbles. I've fallen, scraped my knee. I guess I've had a couple of failures. They were minor. But every goal I ever set to achieve, I achieved. I said, that's amazing. Congratulations. You seem troubled. He said, I am, because as I look back in the rearview mirror over those 18 years, if I knew now what I am capable of, I could have done so much more. And you see, Joe's a high achiever, but he's not an overachiever. It's not because it's never good enough. It's not that he needed more and more. What he was realizing that most of us never realize is that we have so much capability and we don't live up to our own expectations because we set the bar too low. We set the bar too low. And he was talking about, I've done so many good things, but think of the impact I could have created in my community, with my family, even with my employers, my businesses, if I had raised the bar to what I'm capable of. I just didn't know. And his closing phrase was, if I only knew. And I've carried that phrase forward for 5 years now. And I remind myself all the time, because what I discovered is it's not just learning in that, it's actually profound. And in fact, in those 4 words, if I only knew, is the power to create the life and the business you've always desired. In those 4 words. That's it. Because there's so many obstacles that those 4 words highlight. The first one is this. When most of us set objectives, we set them based on what we know. You've heard the phrase before, we don't know what we know. It's true. We don't know what we don't know. And yet we set goals without thinking about that truth. And so we set goals based upon what we've done before, what we think is realistic. We set aggressive stretch goals. How many of you are familiar with SMART goal setting? What's the R? Realistic. That sounds like fun. A friend of mine is fond of saying that he never wants to hear that his team members gave their best. And when I first heard that, it stunned me. I said, I must have misheard him, because my father taught me that. If you do your best, that's all you can do. And then I got it. He said the problem with their best is it's based on what they've done before and what they believe is possible. I said, oh, wow. And how many of us think in terms of making sure our goals are realistic and not impossible? And yet Nelson Mandela said that it always seems impossible until it's done. And how much of our lives today were created by people who said, I'm going to create the impossible. No limitations. They found a way out of the box. If I only knew. Now, the second challenge that's presented by this phrase is this. Too many of us set our bar and determine the quality of our bar against everyone else. We look around and say, hey, I saw your goals. Mine are rocking. I'm aggressive compared to them. One little problem with that. Sadly, we live in a culture that most people's bar is set firmly at mediocre, at getting by, at okay, fine, or even survival. And so when we have those huge years of incremental achievement, that magical 5, 10, aggressive 15% improvement over mediocre, where did it take us? It didn't take us where we wanted to be. It took us where it was safe. If I only knew. And the last piece that I didn't get 5 years ago, I probably got it in the last year or so, was the truth that when we set our objectives, the key we're not aware of is we set our goals based upon who we are in that moment. We don't expect and know for a fact that if we're committed to it, we're going to grow and develop and blossom personally and professionally. Who I am today is not who's going to achieve that 10 or 15-year goal. Now, some people are not static, but they're not growing much because they're settling. But if we choose to grow, we can be guaranteed that we are going to grow exponentially. And we need to set our expectations based upon the truth that when it comes time to hit that big goal, we became the person that could do it. And what I learned from that is it's not so much about the objectives you set, but the decision you make about who you're going to be. Who are you capable of being? Are you going to choose to be the person you were born to be, that you were meant to be? What I call stepping in to your true essence. And think about this, whether you own a business, you work in a business, you're part of an organization, you have a family. How many of you here, be honest, has a life you're living and breathing? See, you all have skin in the game already. Think about the impact of this. If your team members woke up every day and went to work focused on possibilities instead of being realistic. In their heart, they were focused on unleashing instead of getting things done. If their core commitment every day was to transformation instead of being realistic, instead of hitting some goals? And how would your life change if every day you decided to live the life you were meant to live? Not the one someone else wrote for you, not the one told you that you were worthy of, the one that's in your heart. And all of you have one of those. Some are darker and cleaner than others, but we all know there's magic there. See, all of these things have the opportunity to create magic. They create magic in businesses, they create magic in teams, they create magic in our lives, in our families, in our community. It's exponential. You can't even imagine what we can accomplish. And yet we live in a world where mediocre plus 5% is a good year. You know, most of you woke up today and thought it was going to be an ordinary day. Now, you thought it might actually turn out great. You were going to be here, you're going to hear speakers, you were going to learn, you were going to grow, you're going to leave excited and inspired. It would be a great day. Yet when you woke up, you weren't thinking, most of us, about creating extraordinary. You were looking to see what life was going to give you today. 5 years ago, Joe didn't know. Now he knows. 5 years ago, I didn't know. Now I know. And the bad news for all of you is that now you know. No more storytelling. When you look in the mirror tomorrow morning, you can't tell a lie anymore, because you know you're capable of more than you believed you were when you got up today. Every one of you has extraordinary in you. Every one of you was designed and created to create extraordinary. And my invitation to every single one of you is this. Life is a choice. Everything in life is a choice. You can't be made to do anything. This is your choice. It's your opportunity. Tomorrow morning and every morning you get up, I want each one of you to reach aggressively into the tree of life. Grab the biggest, juiciest piece of fruit you can find on that tree. Bite into it. Let the juice run down your chin. Don't worry about what people think. Don't worry about what it looks like. Just worry about who you were meant to be and why you are here and the impact that you will create every day. If I only knew, now we all know. Thank you.